Okay.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Quiet on set. I'll lead it in, and then we go into stories.
Quiet on set.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, you can keep playing with that if you want, but
No,
Nice.
he probably shouldn't.
yeah, probably should.
Oh my
That's
god.
an antique. So, welcome back everybody to our podcast. It's been a little while, but today I have with me two really awesome guests. One of which you already know, Mr. Jovan Markovic.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
And
It's good to be back.
great to have you back.
Thank you.
And today we also have a special guest who is unfortunately leaving the country soon, so we really wanted to get her on a podcast, but it's my good friend Brooklyn.
Hi.
Already that start
Okay.
quality.
Who's Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Okay, so hi, my name is Brooklyn. I am originally from California, but I have lived in Europe consecutively now.
Consecutively.
Whatever the word. What's
Consecutively or
consecutively? I've lived
Yeah,
here 4 years,
nice.
I think. Yeah, and I lived in Austria for 1 year. Did German language school there, and then 3 years in Czech Republic, and I did just completed my BA.
Okay,
So
nice.
yeah,
Congrats.
thank you.
I actually don't think I knew she lived in Austria.
Österreich.
Gesundheit.
Who's did I?
No, if you say the word, it's like if you say Deutschland,
Yeah.
it's German
that's-
for. So Österreich is Austria in Austrian
Okay.
or Austrian German.
Okay.
Do you know how they say Czech Republic? Brooklyn?
Czechia.
Nah, it's like I think it's
Czechland.
Czechian.
Czechia.
Czechian.
No, I'm actually really bad with other countries in German. Like I know.
America.
No, it's
Spojené státy.
no, it's the
Staat.
Staaten. It's like free state.
Okay.
Of the United States
Oh,
of
free
America.
state.
The way that they say like I'm from the United States of America, it's like the Friedlich Lande of the. Everything is with
Okay.
land, so it's like Deutschland und Spanien,
Okay.
Spanienland,
I think
and like
it's-
all these weird things.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway,
It's Czechian for Czech Republic. Any German viewers? Correct me. Well,
Czechia.
And
Czechian.
quick fun fact, in Chinese, the word for China is actually middle country. Because
Middle country?
They see themselves as the middle of the world.
they
and-
call their country
Crazy.
Yeah, so it's a
Interesting.
thing. And in Chinese, America is beautiful country.
Whoa.
Aw. Someone thinks that. That's cute.
And
That is.
So wrong.
Oh my god.
Nah.
Yeah.
and then other countries like the Czech Republic is like Jieka, so it's like Czech but made
funny.
with Chinese pronunciation essentially.
Got it.
And yeah, so but anyway, so before we get into this, I just want to thank everybody for every little bit of support that I've been receiving over the past couple of weeks with this channel. It's done so well, and it's gone past my like the fact that I hit 100 subscribers was awesome, and now we're pushing 1,000. We're like, that's unbelievable to me.
Pat yourself on the back,
Insert
man.
the Wii move when he's like when he gets the bowling thing. He's like, woo!
Yeah.
That's how I
So-
do.
Applause sign.
Yeah, so for everyone who's been commenting, liking, sharing, just spreading this channel, thank you so much. It's already a dream come true, to be honest. And I want this to continue growing. I want to keep making content. If you haven't seen the first podcast with Jovan, go check it out. It's really awesome. It's also with my friend, my roommate Karl, or Karel if you are Czech. And I think we have a really awesome group today for this one. So the thing that we all have in common is at one point or another, we all taught English. Jovan, you unfortunately don't teach English anymore.
Not anymore.
So what do you do now?
I'm in sales now.
And has your teaching like helped your sales at all?
Yes. So the way I like to put it is that I have a proclivity for the yap. So
Yeah.
I have the ability to just talk at people and to people, and I think it's something I'm rather known for in my circle. But basically there was a lot of communication involved in teaching, obviously, right? And I thought that I kind of do well in being able to relate to people, connect with people, and kind of pass on ideas. So, and I also have a business education, like that's my background. So I thought you could kind of combine those two things and go flip some software. So
Okay.
that was like the next sort of career move, and that's what I've been doing for the past 8 months, I think, at this point. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a good time.
And something I've done or had to do with teaching is like, how do you take a boring topic and make it interesting for like anyone or whatever, make it more connected to them? So like, has that aspect been useful for you, and that training with taking a boring topic, making it interesting, like that's how you can sell something?
Like in some ways yes, in other ways no. Okay. There is definitely a lot of how do I make this relevant, rather than how do I make this interesting. Okay. Because we sell a data analysis platform. That's what my company does in a very simply. There's more to it, but if I want to summarize it, it's basically like a business intelligence data analysis platform. Okay. And there's a lot of features and a lot of tech stuff going on under the hood that I do not know. Okay. And so the important bit is like, yeah, our product does all this stuff, but the client might not necessarily see the value unless you can like relate to the client. Mm-hmm. Kind of like how a student might not see a value in a particular lesson unless you kind of really like bring it into their own world.
Right. And what I was taught is like, sometimes it can even like be useful for them, but you can say like, oh, well, you know, now you can help your friend when your friend goes and travels to some country, you know.
Oh yeah.
So
sometimes you really had to do some like jumping through,
digging
through hoops.
Yeah. And how about you, Brooklyn? Like, what's your teaching background?
So before I had no experience like teaching English. No, like none.
Not even like a friend who's like learning?
No. I went to a just super normal, like I went to like an arts high school, so super normal arts high school. I was gonna go with I went to a normal English like high school.
You went to real life East High.
Sorry, okay, go back. I went to an arts school. Shout out Matthew Morrison. I went to an arts high school in California. So my original like pathway in life was going to be studying musical theater, doing acting, moving to New York.
Yeah.
Then I took a year gap year and did in 11th grade, so I was 16 to 17 in Austria, and that's the first time I ever started speaking English to foreigners. Okay. And so I volunteered at a kindergarten there, and I was around kids that had no like, they had never really been around an English speaker before. Right. And so that was my way to learn German better.
So it was a really like small town.
It was a tiny, it was pretty small town.
Like Sound of Music.
It's it's called Klagenfurt, and it's on the border of Italy. And for like Austrians, they were like, that's not a small town. Like it's very known. It's like not,
I actually heard of it.
Yeah, it's actually for me. I am from like LA, so that was really. I mean, my school alone had 5,000 kids in my high school. Yeah. And this town had, like, my school in Austria had, like, 100 kids. So I pretty much knew everyone then, like, in, like, 2 weeks.
Like, in your year or the whole
in, like, thing? The whole school. My year had 30, and then it went, like, smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So it was tiny. You could fit everyone in one school from kinder to up. To high school.
How did you like deal with that? Like you were all of a sudden you're now in an environment where not everybody speaks your language, and when it comes to me, that's like my worst nightmare. Like I think if I can't really speak to people, I'm kind of useless. Like it causes me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah,
so
it was
how did you deal
tricky.
with this?
I mean, okay, so then when I was first like getting more into musical theater, I kind of created like the persona of Brooklyn with, I was like singing a lot and dancing, I was very artistic and writing, I was doing photography, and then when I went to Austria, I had no German training. Like I just wanted to study abroad so bad, I saved up money, I had like garage sales, and then just wanted to move like anywhere. It was going to be Italy, and my dad said no. Okay. It was going to be Spain, and my dad said no. And that would have been cool because I already spoke like better Spanish, so I actually kind of in a way regret not maybe moving to Spain and just really like getting better at Spanish. But anyway, I picked Austria, had a great experience. but the school was tricky. For the first like 6 months, I had not a lot of friends. I didn't have like any friends. I had like one nice friend.
Oh, that's
Okay.
tough.
And it was
Stress.
just like a large part of my personality was gone
Yeah.
because like Jovan said, he's a yapper, he talks to people, and imagine if you want to talk to someone and they're like, no English. I was like, okay, like what do I do now? And
Yeah.
I couldn't really get into any like clubs, and they were doing music, but it was all German music, so it was, I had to learn the songs in German to be able to perform them.
Right.
And then that's why I started volunteering at that kindergarten, because it was little arts classes for kids, like sewing, and so I was teaching little German kids how to sew and paint. And that was fine because their German level was so low that I could meet them. So
Yeah.
my baby German matched
that's
their baby
interesting.
German. So I
These
can.
were like really, kindergarten.
They're
so
very
really
young.
kids.
They're
That's
like
interesting.
5,
That's so
4,
cool.
4, 5, 6 years old, and
She's
that's
like, I found my people.
They were my people. They were my besties. A lot of them were like, some were half Croatian, half Italian. It was like the best experience was when I finally found these little kids, and I'd be with them like 4 days out of the week. So that was kind of my first experience learning like how to teach little kids English.
Yeah.
And then moved to Prague, kind of got into teaching for kind of just like it's what expats do. I was like,
So
what
it's,
do I have to
the
offer?
standard expat
Like, what do
side
I have to
hustle.
offer? I can teach English, and had a recommendation, and then got into that company, and
Yeah.
now teach adults and kids, which was
Yeah.
something I never thought I would do.
It's something I never, like I said in high school, I wanted to just swear off teaching, and then university came around. I started making more foreign friends as I was practicing more languages and making connections like that. And I helped people do their homework or cheat on tests sometimes or something like that. And all that taught me was like, I love helping people with English, and I was like, I want to do this more. And that's why I started this YouTube channel, and that's why I'm so happy it's doing so well, because I'm already helping more people than I've ever helped before. And it's just, it's my passion to help and see a difference, and have someone say, this isn't the class. You can just talk.
You're allowed to speak. Wow.
I just wanted to swear off teaching.
Yeah, like it seemed to be something that was just like boring, and I was like, oh, I want to do something with
That is
astronomy.
crazy.
I want to do I liked languages, and teaching just it seemed boring or something like that. But
you are so built for this stuff.
which
Like you are,
I
have
had to
been,
realize it.
you have been created in the forge.
Did you mean you wanted to swear off teaching because in high school you were kind of teaching people?
No, because
Or you
in
mean-
high school I wasn't like teaching anyone. I wasn't helping anyone. I mean, I didn't have any foreign friends at that point yet. Probably around maybe my senior year of high school. So around the time I'm like 17, 18 probably, I'm starting to make some more friends like on the internet. And then foreign friends after that. But in high school I was like, teaching super boring. I like languages. I want to do something with languages. I applied originally to like do a major in Chinese, and I was like, I'm gonna do maybe some maybe like international relations even, which I
Like
didn't.
a spy.
Yeah, I didn't know what IR really was, but like I thought about being a spy because like my mom's ex-husband used to do some spy stuff, I think.
Lore.
I feel like you could have actually done very
Lore.
well with it.
Well, like,
but
maybe.
I think about
Very
you trying to do
inconspicuous.
IR. Like, no, I would like never check Chris at the airport. I'd be like, nah, this man, he's a freaking nerd, and he can like go through. He has carrying nothing.
in the best way possible.
But actually, you're like Matt Damon
Right.
on the DL.
So I mean, like I pride myself in trying to have like the best accent possible, and people who have seen my challenge video where I speak some different languages.
Yep.
I'm a little stressed in that video, but I think my Russian and Czech accent came out relatively well. So if anyone sees those videos, you can tell me if I have a good accent or not. But my friends said like, yeah, you could maybe come off as like a spy, and I was like, maybe I could actually do it, but. I just realized like a translation job or interpretation, maybe I'm gonna be stuck behind a computer or something. It's a little boring. And then
you were forged in the fire of linguistics, the lingua gods hammered away at the piece of molten metal that was happening.
You never studied linguistics in like university.
I did. I had. I like languages. I love looking at why they're different, how they're different, why is one word the same in a language but has a different meaning, stuff like that. So I have this curiosity about languages and how they work, how they evolve, how we get them in the first place, like as children. I'm not sure I want kids now, but like I wanted originally a kid to like do this experiment with them. Like I want to.
Oh, what? Just kidding.
I'm
imagining you being I had a child just to experiment on language.
Just to experience firsthand like language acquisition.
Yeah.
That idea is just really cool for me. So eventually I realized I was
have like one parent speaking one language to it and the other.
That's a thing. Actually, it's called OPAL. One parent, one language.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you can also do it with two. It's really cool if it's pretty hard, but you can.
TPL?
Yeah, it's hard.
TPO?
But in theory, it would be that they would have for example, one parent speaking to them only in German and the other one speaking to them only in Spanish,
right.
And they go to a third party like school and learn English there.
Right.
So that would be really cool because then your child would be doing fluent in English, fluent in German, and fluent in Spanish, at least for conversational.
Right.
I don't know how well they would do with like. I know a lot of kids.
Do you think that they're like? I think that's really good as like in concept, in theory it works, and it's probably what I would also do, but I feel like it would create some gaps.
Well, let me put it to you this way. You both know, actually we all three know someone who did that.
I'm thinking of a person that I know, but you guys don't know him. So.
Well, that's what Carl did.
His mom.
Carl.
His mom spoke to him in Polish.
Only Polish.
And his dad spoke to him in Czech. And then as a family, they kind of do this mix of like English, Czech.
No.
Or just Czech.
No. So with his dad, it's exclusively Czech. With his mom, it's exclusively Polish.
So when he calls her, it's Polish only. Yeah.
But he didn't speak English until he was 5. When he started to go to school.
And he's fine. Like the idea that your kid's gonna be like behind in some way is actually a total misconception.
Yes.
Your brain is built better if you are challenging it from a young age. So the idea that like my kid's gonna be behind in school if I just like don't teach it English from the beginning.
Right.
No.
So for any parents out there, I don't know if I have any parents with kids or learning different languages and whatnot. If you have the ability and you want to give your kid an extra language or 2 or whatever, I don't know what it is, don't do 5. I think that's apparently too much, they say. But if you're trying to help your kid, like, there's not going to be a problem with their accent. There's not going to be a problem with their vocabulary. It's all about getting them exposure. They'll use it with the people that they learn to use it with. That's why I think it's so interesting. It's like when your dad's speaking Czech and your mom's speaking Polish, how do you know immediately like which one is which? But it's just funny, humans just figure it out.
They do it. And I've seen videos of, for example, I saw, it was like on my Instagram reel, this like little Italian girl speaking Italian to her mom, and then she ran to her dad and translated everything from what her mom said into German, so her dad, she'd be like, Mom said blah, 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 and it's now in German. And I was like, I wish that my parents like could have had that ability. Like mine don't, but my next dream will be like doing that with my family.
Yeah. So originally I was like, I want to see all this with my own kid and whatnot, and then I was like, that's probably the wrong reason to have a child.
Yeah.
you should have a child because you want the child and its happiness and blah blah blah. So
yeah, maybe just save it for like your students.
Yeah, or I'll have some AI in the future that I can experiment on. At this point, who knows what will happen. But
what do you think about like in case there was a kid who was raised in this way? Like I know 2 examples. So Carl was raised with Czech, Polish, and English, and then I have a friend of mine who's raised with Dutch, Czech, and English. And I think in both Carl's case and the case of this other guy, English is like their strongest language and their most like thorough language. Whereas these other 2, they kind of like have gaps in. So this kid, he's been, I think, studying his whole life in English, and then he speaks like Czech to his mom and Dutch to his dad, but he's not really fluent in either to the level where he is like in English. And I think that's the same thing with Carl. I
Right.
think Carl's is like obviously speaks English perfectly,
Yeah.
and then his Czech, and then his Polish is like a little bit below
Right,
that.
and it's all about what languages you just cling to. I mean, the only outlet Carl has for Czech is his dad.
Yeah,
But he
which
had,
really limits like the range of
right, because
topics you can talk about. Same thing with me.
Because you're going to be at school more than you're at home talking to your dad.
Yeah.
You're at school for 6 hours. You're hearing English all the time. You go home. You talk to your dad.
And with friends, and you're writing essays, and you're
And it's
doing tests, and you
topics.
do topics, and then with your parent, a lot of times, depending on your relationship with them, like for me, if my dad and I were speaking in a different language, we could have really cool conversation because we do in English. But with other parents and different family dynamics, they might be learning the simple words in, for example, like for Carl with Polish, maybe he's only learned what to talk about with his mom in Polish,
Right.
versus not work appropriate, versus not anything with philosophy or with, these kind of more niche things that he would do in English.
Right, and not only that, but he's not learning a new language. He's learning his mom's Polish.
Yeah.
So
that's
anything she's had from her life, which goes back to her childhood, which is a long time ago. He's not learning the new slang, the new whatever.
adaptations for
Right.
yeah.
Because the languages are always evolving and stuff. So
That's something I have not considered
Right.
at all. It's going to be a tough time going back to Serbia in a week.
Because there will be like moments where you will feel like you have not kept up with it in
Yeah.
that way. Okay.
I mean, yeah, we talked about this in the previous podcast episode where I had a little like, oh, I'm so bummed about this. There's tears in my eyes. But yeah, so basically I only speak Serbian to my parents, and I see my dad once every like 2-3 weeks, and I see my mom like 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And we don't really catch each other because she's busy, I'm busy. So we only just have a very, very like narrow scope of things that we talk about, and it's mostly just catching up about our days.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we'll talk a little bit about like what's happening politically in the world, or like we'll talk about what people are up to back home, but it's not for very long, and it's not a very like wide array of topics.
Like, could you
So that's
imagine
why it's kind of
your
like
work
Serbian
day,
is
like your
shriveled
9 to
a little
5
bit. In Serbian? No.
Like that
Oh
could be
my God.
imagine switching from the more domestic to like work where
Yeah.
you're thinking my one parent thing. When you translate that sometimes to the outside world, it can be a little hard for them, so you kind of need a little bit of extra help. I'm most likely, if you do the one parent one language thing and you really want it to grow with them, you will have to enroll them in a dual language program.
Duolingo.
Or
Duolingo
dual
program?
something, duolingo.
The threat of the owl
Yeah.
will keep them active.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you would have to like have gone to. You would have to just have. Well, I mean, that's just. It's funny with the Serbian thing because I'm like, you did go to school, like you
I
did
for
learn.
19 years.
You
Yeah,
did,
totally.
like, but you still feel more confident in English.
Well, now, but because it's been 6 years of like non-stop English, and some things I only know in English. Like I have my business education is in English. All my business communication is in English. So sometimes I find a prospect that I want to write an email to in English, and then I realized, holy I have no idea how to do this.
Like
And-
in Serbian.
Yeah, and there's a lot of technical terms, for example, and what a lot of languages do is they do just not translation, but they just take the term and then they just pronounce it the Serbian way.
Right.
So-
like kabel or something.
Yeah,
or
like I'm
software. They don't translate anywhere.
Yeah, you don't translate names of software frameworks, like, so I wouldn't really know what to translate. And now I actually wish that Carl were here for this episode because he is kind of in the same situation. Similar
Right.
thing with like another one of our friends who was doing like an internship type thing at what is it? Well, I'm blanking on the name now. It's SAP, Rebecca. She was also like, she's Czech, but she's raised with English, and
Right.
and for her first interview when like writing all these business emails, she's like, I realized that there's a lot of gaps. So when I actually write emails to English prospects, and when I get emails from from Serbian prospects, they're in English.
Right.
Like Serbian recruiters reach out to me in English, and I understand, and I'm like, I totally understand why, because translating a massive like message that's not tailored specifically for me would take a lot of time.
Yeah.
But
So
it's a
more
bit of a
ease.
shame, and it stresses me out. But that's life.
Yeah. Now, I think this will be a good time to take a little break as the cameras are about to stop rolling.
See.
But we will see you guys in part 2 of this, so keep watching. So anyway, I wanted to get into some maybe interesting or funny teaching stories that you guys have, or even some learning stories that you have. If you guys learned some language and had some, I don't know, interesting mistakes or funny moments with those. So do you guys have any, let's start with teaching stories. Any fun ones come to mind?
Like, not necessarily.
Okay, I actually have a funny learning story.
Okay.
If we want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay, so learning stories.
Okay. So when I was first learning Spanish, I took it for 7 years in middle school and high school, and I also went before to like a dual language program.
Now, just for the record, did you have to take it, or did you have a choice? Like, did you choose it?
We only are required to do 1 year
1 year. Okay.
of French, Spanish, or Chinese. Mandarin.
And you did
Okay.
7.
And I really liked Spanish, and I got my like biliteracy seal, which means like in California, if someone wants to hire me, I can do like all the writing and translation and stuff in Spanish.
We don't have that in New Jersey.
It's more like it's not.
We don't have it in Bible.
The equivalent would probably be like, what are you
C2.
So
That's like the highest level.
that's not me. So for biliteracy seal, it means you've completed up to your like B2 or B2 or C1 for writing, and because I was like much better at writing than, in my opinion, like speaking.
Right.
And if I like kept up with it, I could get really good. But because now I've taken a break, and my mom and I like just don't speak anymore to each other like in Spanish as much. It's hard. And also I used to work in a restaurant where everyone was only speaking Spanish. My boss was speaking to me. So then I was learning like workplace Spanish and bad words and all that stuff.
Okay.
So my program was similar to the Berlitz teaching method, which is like only conversational, and like you focus much on like student maximizing the talk time.
Right.
And so they were asking me about my life, and the teachers, whatever, telling me stuff, and I said estoy embarazada. Like I was talking about
that's
that.
That's a pretty common one.
I
I've
know,
heard of this before.
and I was trying to be like, oh, I was so embarrassed, like that this happened to me, blah blah blah, and the whole class like. Everything was fine. Like no one caught it. And then the teacher with this guy starts cracking up because I'm like 16 in high school at the time. And so he's like looking at me like, and I was like, what? And he's like, Brooklyn, like it's not, that, because that means I'm pregnant.
And you go, yeah.
No, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
No, he actually,
Exactly.
he did the thing like that you do in the language where it's like, Brooklyn, like, but they didn't call me Brooklyn. They called me Gracia, because my middle name is Gracia, or Grace, so they change it. So he's like, Gracia, estás embarazada? And like, are you? And I was like, sí, like I'm embarrassed about this whole thing. And he was like, no, that's pregnant.
And how did you feel in that moment? Like, did you really come over, or did the embarrassment like really come down on you then?
Yeah. Then I was double embarrassed pregnant. No, but I just was like, everyone laughed. It was funny. And like, unfortunately, still to this day, I can never remember the word for embarrassed.
Really? Even after trauma like that?
I know, because I associate that word with that other word, and I have to just use like tengo anxiety, or I have to like say something like nervioso, like I have to say something like embarrassed but in a different way.
Okay, so you just avoid it.
I now avoid the word. That's why it's trauma.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And it sounds nothing like the word embarrassed. So a lot of Spanish words, it's cool because you can like say, oh, this is calor, and that's like and it sounds like this, and rojo, and whatever.
Right.
But then this word specifically, I can never remember it because it doesn't sound like embarrassed at all.
Right.
It doesn't start with an E or an I or anything.
Yeah. So for anyone who knows like terms of whatnot, they're called false cognates.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so when a word looks like a word in, let's say, your language, but it means it's something different, there are two words for it. The technical term is a false cognate. That's the more scientific word, if you want to call it that. or sometimes people call it false friends.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Just
that's very like picturesque.
There's a lot.
language.
I have
like it.
so many of
And
those.
it's the
Czech
same
and Serbian
thing.
too.
Yeah.
Like when we had Italian class, everyone just could not remember the difference between genitori and parenti, because in English, parents, and then you
A
see
janitor.
well,
Sounds like janitor.
it does, but so in Italian, genitori is parents, parenti is actually relatives.
Interesting. See,
okay.
that's hard.
And
Because you want to, in your mind, you just want to say like mi parenti, and then you're like, "Nah," like it's
Right.
not.
right,
You know?
and then it's kind of I don't know what other false cognates that we found, but it's interesting to learn those, because it's like it's just a way for you to see like this word is completely normal for someone else, and they have no problem with it, but then
Yeah.
for you it's a problem. It's a kind of funny feeling. I
Interesting.
think.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my story about. But then I don't know if anyone has like.
Like, did you
similarly-
Ton.
find any false cognates going from Serbian to Czech?
Yeah, I talked about some in the first episode. There's one where our word for jostling around in
Right.
Serbian is
Right.
mrdati. That's all you need to know.
Right.
All my Czech viewers get it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what about any like more normal words like I don't know, friend or food or anything like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. For example, we have the Czech word dobrodružství, which
Okay.
means
Adventure.
adventure. But
Yes.
in Serbian, it's very similar to words dobro društvo. When you put it together, it's two words.
Yeah.
And dobro društvo means good company.
Okay.
Yeah, so dobrodružství and dobrodruštvo sound like very similar.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's interesting to break it down, because for me, dobrodružství is like a hard word for me, because I just focus on dobro means like good,
Yeah.
and then družství is maybe just for me it's some kind of
doesn't really
ending.
mean anything, right?
Right. And then I see the meaning is adventure, and I'm like,
What?
how?
How did we
Excuse
get
me?
to there from there?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
joke.
or something like that. But then the awesome thing about languages is like good company, right? And then so like in Russian you have the word for friend is drug, and how you can change the ending is drug. You can change the G ending, which kind of sounds like a K already, to a Ž. So drug can become druž. So like družba in Russian means friendship. And so when you take like dobro and then družství, it's like now I can understand friendship. Okay, it's company. But then Czech with
Interesting.
adventures is like why?
Oh, I'm about to come full circle with this.
Okay.
So in Serbian we have the word družina or družbina. It's like a little bit more older. And in Serbian that means friend group or like a gang. Like a little gang of like kids running around.
Okay.
But in Slovene it means family. Which is this
Družina is family.
Yeah, like
Okay,
družina,
that's fine.
družina. So wait, this is not the thing that takes it full circle. In Serbian, our word for pregnant is trudna, which in Slovene means tired.
Yes.
So I was gonna. What happened there? I totally like
Brain
was
fart.
gonna.
He went
I
friend
totally-
group and
I kind of just really. I kind of had the end in mind, and then I missed it.
interesting.
And then I had another
There's
thing
just
with Spanish.
too much knowledge to share.
I have
And another-
another funny story, but it's more like instead of me learning a language, it was me being thrown into the language
Okay.
at the workplace. So it's really quick. It's just another one of the false cognitive things you were talking about. Started working for I started working as a server in Prague at a Italian restaurant, but then it was actually owned by Albanians, and everyone that was employed there was Albanian. I was the single, besides one other Ukrainian woman, I was the only person not like of Ukrainian or Albanian nationality.
Okay.
So they didn't change a single way of life just for me, which is, I don't expect that at all. But in a environment where you're like working together, I was kind of imagining that like they would maybe like speak English a little bit in the job. Like if I'm like, hey, can I get a small beer? But they literally would not. They were like, you're gonna just learn Albanian because we're tired of like talking to you in
Okay.
English.
Damn.
Doing it the
So
hard way.
That's tough.
yeah, and so in about 3 months, I was able to call out orders in Albanian and ask for big, small, this beer, and anything to involve the restaurant. Forks, knives, clean, fast, now. I will take it. Go. Where is
Right.
this?
Yeah.
All of those words, I was like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Bad words, angry things. Excuse me.
Lots of angry things.
Like
In a
they
restaurant.
would yell at me in that, and I'd yell right back at them. Like,
Yeah.
because then I started getting like a lot better. Yeah.
Okay.
But I had a false friend in like Spanish also, which I did more like for fun. You
What
know?
is that? False friend. Oh,
It's a false
oh, yeah.
cognate.
It's like
False cognate.
false. See, you know the technical term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
So I told one of my like Spanish speaking friends from AAU. I don't speak any Spanish, but I sometimes just like to do that. So he did something very cool, and I wanted to say that I'm impressed. So I say that I'm like soy impresado, which means I am printed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
that's funny. But actually,
Imprinted.
one of my favorite language learning stories of all time is I think I might have told you this already, possibly you also. But when I was in London for a little bit, when I was 16 years old, I was there for like a language camp. But at that point, I was pretty much already fully fluent. I was just there to like see the city. And a little bit of important context, and for the viewers back home, is I am not a rule breaker. Like even when I was a kid, I was super like straight lace, toe the line, don't cause any trouble, right?
Yeah.
So, but I can kind of have like this, like I look like I'm kind of aloof, and I could kind of like can be up to no good in high school, even though that was not at all the case. So we're in this class, right? And she's doing roll call. And I'm kind of tired from the night before. It's like the second night in London. We stayed
Drinking
up.
too much.
At 16? No.
Wow. I don't know.
Rule breaking? No.
Also, yeah, rule breaking, huh? So we stayed up like super late just hanging out because it's a new group of people. It was very exciting. And so I'm really tired for the class the second day. And she's doing roll call. And basically the way that you raise your hand in Serbia to answer, like when you get called on, is you do 2 fingers as opposed to the whole hand.
See, for us, that means I want to go to the bathroom and do something specific.
Do this one?
Yeah, it's like if some teachers would
What?
have the rule, like if you want to just go to the bathroom and because
You can't go.
like 2 is an emergency.
What?
It's like 1 is
No,
like I just want to
never
go.
had this.
New Jersey.
Literally, our thing was just if you want to go to the bathroom, you
Mayor's
get up
town.
and leave and
Some
you
teachers,
sign out.
Some teachers had that, policy, but other teachers were like, guys, you're leaving too often. Like,
Interesting.
put up a 1 if you like just want to go, but like it can wait. Put up a 2 if
That's
it's like
kind
an
of embarrassing because
emergency.
like the whole class
I'm like,
knows.
I don't want to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
what if
Yeah.
it? Whatever. Anyway.
So
Sorry,
we go
I derailed.
like this. It's what we were taught in elementary school, and it's stuck to like basically till the end of high school.
Okay.
Like some people started doing it like this because they thought this was childish, but this was always kind of my thing. And you can do it like that or like this. It doesn't really matter. So I'm
It's
in.
just me saying hello.
I'm sitting in like the back of the class, just kind of like zoned out because I'm so tired. And she's doing roll call, and she calls my name, and I from the back of the class I just go here, and she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, to you too, guy." Like the teacher does that to me, and I'm like, "Ah, all right, what was that about?" And then my like friend who was from Serbia, she's part of my group. She tells me, she's like, "Hey, this basically means like fuck off. Like you just told the teacher to fuck off. Like you insulted the teacher." And I was like, and then me in my goody ways, I start feeling horrible the whole class. So I make sure I'm very engaged. I answer questions. I don't like cause trouble. And then at the end of the class, I like walk to the teacher and I'm like, "Hey, it's been brought to my attention that this is apparently like an offensive thing here in England. I did not know that. That's just how we do things at home."
Right.
And she's like, "Yeah, no problem. I could tell that like, it's not really it's a cultural thing. I understand." And then she told me the story of why this is offensive, and I thought this was so cool. Like this is what makes this story awesome for me.
That's what I'm asking right now. Like, how did this become?
Yeah,
I mean, for me,
it's like a
it's just
deeper-
like it's like peace. Bye. Get out of here. Maybe.
It's like a
but-
deeper thing.
Yeah, so it goes back all the way to like the 100-year war between England and France.
Now I'm bad with history. You got to tell me when that was.
This was 14th century.
Oh, okay.
And this war was about 136 years. So a bit of a, they kind of fumbled the name a little.
Yeah.
And so basically I think that's when England like came out with the longbow. Like the longbow, like this like 6-foot tall bow, and you needed to be really strong to string it and to shoot an arrow. And the effective like area of damage was like 300 meters. So you
Yeah.
can skewer a man from like 300 meters. And so basically, if these guys would get captured, the Frenchmen would like slice off these 2 digits before they released them.
Okay.
And so that became a way for how like the Englishmen would taunt the French. They would go like, "Oh, I have these. I can still do damage."
Right.
I'm the Englishman taunting the Frenchman. If you've seen Monty Python, it's funny because it's the other way around.
Wasn't there something like? Isn't that part of? There's some kind of history too with the middle finger like that. No, like people would cut off the middle finger for some kind of reason, and that then became like a sign of its own.
I'm not sure really.
Someone at home correct me on this, but I think it's something similar. Anyway, sorry.
So they go like this, and that's to taunt the French, and then somehow, because it's kind of interesting how these cultural, let's say, gestures evolve, it became offensive within England also.
Okay.
And so that's the story. That's
if it's
taunted the teacher with my 300 meters worth of effective damage.
So not even with verbal language, just sign language.
I just sign language offended a teacher.
Yeah.
That's one of my more favorite stories.
Did she tell you this?
Yeah. Yeah, when I apologized, she told me the story.
So, I mean, at least they teach why it's offensive.
Right, yeah.
At least it's not just like this weird thing that you're like, you just learn and you don't even know why you do it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the other thing.
That was really neat.
One of the fun things that I've come across with like my own mistakes with learning languages and whatnot is not always conjugating correctly. So one thing I
Cases,
did,
baby. Cases.
Yeah. One thing I did early on with Czech was, I learned words like dělat and then to say, so it ends with an AT. And then I learned to say I do, okay, it's an AM ending, so ja dělám. And then I just applied it basically everywhere I saw an AT ending. So I was like, okay, this word hrát, so instead of hraju, which is the correct form, I said to people hrám. And that's actually, I guess it's hrajem in Slovak, but it looked more Slovak, I guess, is kind of what it seems to be. But anyway, I said this to so many people, like, because I play video games, so I'm like, oh yeah, hram, video, hre, something like that. No one corrected me for a really long time, but eventually I found the difference somehow. Maybe someone told me finally, and they were just like, oh, but it's a cute mistake. We understand it, blah blah blah. And I was like, but I feel so dumb for making this conjugation error like all my life.
Yeah, I actually make that mistake a bit also. Like when I am talking about this, I kind of lose it a little, like hraju, and then I say haram sometimes, or I mix up like jedu a jím for some reason, like to eat and to go. But haram actually means temple or church in Serbian.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
There's a false friend.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what about with German? Because you know some German, right? Like, have you come across these false cognates?
Actually, for me, when I learned German, it was actually cooler because I just feel like they have a word really for everything, and it's very straightforward.
You can make up your
so
words.
It's cool. Like, if you want to say, like, a lot of German streets are not just like Lincoln or 9th Avenue. It's like, like Red Sparrow Lane, and then it's like the name for Red Sparrow, Rot, whatever, Straße. So it's like this long name, and it's like Wir Windlukenhuttenstraße, and it's like the longest name for northern facing street. So they're very specific with like names, and if you I talked a little about like each country, the name for it, like Deutschland, is the land of German speaker.
Right.
So everything like makes sense in my mind. It's very boxy language. It's like, I don't know, it's just cool. Like Spanienland, it's like the land of Spain, of people, Spanish people. Like, so it's just, to me, Spanish is very fun and free, and German is very like, it's eins, it's zwei, and drei. And the way that you do the numbers, it's like 3 and 10. And it just feels very like rigid. You know, like if you'd say like 13, it's 310.
Yeah.
Versus for us, it's 13. And I just really enjoy that German is very straightforward for me like that. But I don't know it well enough to know these weird little like false friends or something.
Yeah, and in Chinese actually works the same way with its numbers. So if you want to say 30, you say 310.
I mean, something that's like, I actually would say...
Serbian also.
Really?
Yeah. It's so, we have the word 3, which is 3, and then the word 10,
let me guess. Desat.
One letter off.
German, it's 10, and I like it.
You're one letter off.
I don't know, Deset. I don't know.
Deset.
Deset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
Deset.
Same.
And then if you want to say 30, it's 3 deset. So 3 plus deset together.
Yes, I see. It's cool. Like it makes sense in my mind versus with Albanian when I was learning numbers, they put it all at the end. So they say like 153. Like, and you say it's kind of more like English versus like German. You would say the 350 100.
You would say 103.50.
You would say
153.
100.
Jeez, I really wish I knew German.
Yeah, it's
go
100,
100,
103 and 50. See how weird you have to put it? Like instead of just saying 153, you have to say 103 and 50.
Have you noticed that sometimes they do that in Czech as well?
Well, yeah. So I wanted to say like right now. I mean, I want to say it's an informal way of doing it, but like you can say like 5 a 50. You say 5 and 50 as a way to say 55.
Yeah.
Or I'm 26. I'm 26. So I'm 6 and 20.
Got it.
Which I'm pretty sure is informal or slang. I don't think it's like.
It sounds
it
like
might be
it's
normal, actually.
It sounds like it's just like a little bit of German influence in the Czech language, which happens in like really old. Well, not really old, but like really odd places.
Now here's a question for you: who's actually influencing who? Is it German influence on Czech or Czech influence on German?
Oh, that's a historical question.
Yeah,
that
I would say
not really...
I think it's German because the German people used to be like they were like farm agricultural lands, and the German kingdoms were separated. And then before the 30 Years' War, this is all like, you can cut this out for sure. But basically they owned like a wide part of from all the way up in like parts of Russia down through Poland and then through Germany. And really only through the 30 Years' War did the German kingdom unify, where German became like this national language for all of like, for most of like Austria-Hungary was all German speaking. That's why they like cut out all the other languages for a long time, or it was those languages were secondary in farming lands, but then German was like institutionalized. So it's quite old, and its roots are in a lot of languages. It's in English too. So in my mind, it learning German worked much better than learning Czech. So I feel like that could play a role in it.
It's closer to English.
And it just is very nice, and like a lot of it makes sense. And for example, even the word yellow is Geld, and it came from money. So if you say like Geld, it's also money. Okay. So it's also like their coins are like yellow.
Wait, is it not Geld with a B at the end?
No,
Geld.
it's D. But I think
Geld is money, and then Gelb is the color.
But we also say like when, I don't know, like
pull that up for me,
again,
Jamie.
this is like Austrian, but like they say like they use a lot of these weird little like things. So for me, I learned it as like money and like the color of money.
Because for me, I don't listen to too much like German stuff, and I don't speak German like at all. Yeah, I listen to a little bit of German rap, and there's a song with Geld in the name, and I always thought it was gold.
So again, that's kind of maybe a false friend. But is it really if they're calling it money and it's a coin, and they maybe used to use like gold coin? Who knows? Like I don't know the history of that, but I think those things are cool to me.
Now, just for the record, apparently in German, gold is gold.
Gold.
Money is Geld, and yellow is Gelb with a B.
So it's kind of cool like that. I just think it's like they are saying like money is this, and
yeah, so we kind of went off topic. We started with teaching stories, but then it kind of became a learning story because Brooklyn decided to hijack the whole thing. Chris, do you have any like teaching stories that are fun that you could tell? Because I kind of don't really. So I'm just wondering,
to kind of reinforce why I love doing what I do, and the students that I have that are just awesome, especially with this one beginner I have. He's super funny. We always open up the lesson with, hey, how are you? How was your weekend? Stuff like that. We're not teaching anything, but I asked him how his weekend was. He said he had a party, and that was just really, really fun. I told him, I was working on the weekend. I did some video editing and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, he just says, my weekend was better.
I actually like that.
And I mean, he just says it so monotone.
Did he tell you why?
No.
My weekend
Just,
was better.
but I was like, I laughed. I was like, you know what, you're right. I worked, you had fun.
But you have fun with your work.
I have fun with my work, but just he had like, you know, sociable fun. He was with people,
better.
and you know that's what people call more fun rather than I was working. But I think that's probably all the time we have today. I know you guys are very busy people. I also have to be a little bit busy later today myself. So for anyone who's made it this far, thank you for watching, listening. If you're doing your laundry or cleaning dishes, whatever, I'm grateful for any ears out there that are listening. And like, comment, subscribe, you know, all that awesome stuff. We're again almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is just mind-blowing to me.
Awesome.
I can't believe it has ever.
Go
I can't believe it's
Chris.
even happened.
Woo!
Thank you so much. And again, thank you guys both for even being here. Thank you for your support in this. I know Jovan and you, Brooklyn, you're helping me continue this and giving me a lot of energy for it as well. So.
All right, we'll yap at you any day, man.
Thanks, Chris.
And hopefully we see you on another podcast. Brooklyn, I know you're leaving, but maybe through
Visual?
Zoom? Yeah, maybe
Zoom?
through Zoom.
Zoom. Oh, yeah.
Zoom interview, possibly.
We'd have the sign-off song. I'll
Yeah.
make you a better sign-off song.
But-
That was watching Chrismus Academy. Chrismus Academy is where you learn. That's what you want. Chrismus Academy. Learning language with Chris is fun.
Oh my god, that was great.
Woo! And she just, out of nowhere.
That's freestyle.
That's amazing.
All right, well.
She dabbed. She ruined it. She ruined
okay.
it.
I'm
so
done.
again, thank you for everyone who watched, and see you in the next one.
Everyone loves learning at Chrismus Academy.
Chrismus.
Chrismus Academy.
We could totally do this at the end. This could be like a little
Everyone
side.